It's this one again. And this time, we are going to use Batman and see how well we can do Batman. It's just directional. We got to check and see if it is directional. No, it's not directional. We're doing good on this part. So, oh boy, I thought this was 2 yards.
Oh, you shot it.
Nope, 1 yard. Alright, let's see what we can do here. Let's see what we can do here, and I'm hoping that I do have enough to make it work. So we have this one.
This horse and ride. Forget about
You
all
mean
the things.
hop on the cow now?
Hop on the we'll hop on the cow. We'll
All
hop
right.
on the. We'll be cowboys today. We'll do
All
it
right.
today.
Well, let's ride.
So let's ride. So I want to start out just by reading a verse for those of you that don't know where this whole red heifer thing comes from. I'm going to read a scripture in Numbers chapter 19, and I've got it here for you guys to look at. And you can read that whole chapter. The first half of it is explaining this ritual, how they have to do it, and the importance of this ritual. It says, "This is the ordinance of the law which the Lord hath commanded, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, that they bring thee a red heifer without spot, wherein is no blemish, and upon which never came yoke. And ye shall give her unto Eleazar the priest, that he may bring her forth without the camp, and one shall slay her before his face." Now the point of this sacrifice, which it continues to explain, is because of these ashes that they would mix with things in this fire, and then the people would be sprinkled with ashes. They would rub their ashes, and this would purify them, cleanse them in physical ways to where they were able to enter into the temple. So this was a very important sacrifice that they did in order to purify the people, the children of Israel. There's a lot to be said about this red heifer. David, do you have any more insights you'd like to share into this, just this red heifer sacrifice mentioned in the Bible? Obviously, we know that the Judaism, they have many other traditions that they go along with this red heifer sacrifice. I mean, obviously, the same things that are the same is they burn them on a pile of rocks and they put the same things in them. But they have certain qualifications to do it. But do you have any other insights that you'd like to add to this?
Well, could read a little background here from the New Interpreter's Dictionary of the Bible. It says, according to the book of Numbers, the ashes of a special red cow were used to purify those defiled by death, the strongest contamination in the Israelite system of impurities. A corpse was irrevocably impure, and those who had been in contact with it were required to purify themselves under penalty of the divine agency. The ashes of a physically perfect red cow, which had never been yoked, were necessary for the purification ritual from corpse impurity. Individuals needing purification from corpse impurity were required to come to the priest, who mixed spring water with ashes from the red cow, creating mi-nadah, and sprinkled this mixture on them using a sprig of hyssop.
So yeah, they would put the hyssop in there. It's interesting that this was such an important thing, and we're going to see how this all ties in, why there's people that want to stop it. And this first thing that I'm going to show you here is a documentary called "Stop the Red Heifer Sacrifice." I'm going to show you the trailer for this sacrifice, or for this video. I actually was in contact with the creator of this video. Somebody got us in contact, wanted us to do a video. But as you guys know, I really don't interview people. So we, other than just say, hey, I'll check out your video, that's the extent of the conversation I had with this guy. But I want you guys to see that this is a pretty popular thought. He was on with Pierce Morgan. He was, this guy was on with a lot of different people talking about this. And there's a lot of people that really don't want this to happen. And you'll see this through this trailer here. Check this out.
What if I told you the cause of the October 7th attack leading to the current conflict in the Holy Land was a red cow? Let me explain. Hamas has stated that the final trigger for the recent October 7th attack was concern of a cow sacrifice leading to the demolition of the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa mosques to rebuild the Jewish temple. What are they talking about? The red heifer sacrifice. A small but powerful group of Orthodox Judaism and evangelical Christianity believe it is written that a perfect red heifer, meaning no blemishes, must be sacrificed to rebuild the Temple of Jerusalem. But one of the holiest Islamic mosques is in the way. The TempleInstitute.org, run by these small Judeo-Christian groups, confirms that after the cow sacrifice, they plan to clear it.
It's 100%, yeah. The whole thing's going to go. We have to build a temple.
This will enrage the entire Muslim world. As the Middle East Monitor said, Israel's red cow will blow up the region. And while the majority of Jews disagree with these sacrifices, all signs point to these groups doing it anyway. With government support and $250,000, the first perfect red heifers in 2,000 years were flown over from a Texas rancher who I interviewed in December for our recent documentary that went into 650 theaters worldwide, where he admitted the cows caused the conflict.
It is the fulcrum of the conflict, that's for sure, and the red heifers are the start of that.
He also revealed the sacrifice is set for Passover, April 2024.
So we're coming right on that time. I believe it's going to happen soon.
And he said it could lead to a holy World War III event.
Today we're closer to a World War III type event than we were yesterday. And tomorrow we'll be even closer. And it is coming, period.
Why are major media outlets who rage about this holy war silent on this issue? Even our film distributor demanded we remove the red heifer rancher from our theater release, censoring this message from the mainstream. The October 7th in Gaza situation is horrific, but this cow sacrifice may spark further worldwide war and bloodshed. If we act now, it's not too late. Our best chance to avoid escalating the tension is petitioning to spare the innocent cow and stop the sacrifice. Our goal is 1 million signatures by April 22nd, 2024, Passover, hand delivered to the Temple Institute and Netanyahu himself to spare the cow, stop the sacrifice, and prevent a holy war. Sign now, stop the sacrifice.
Is there a right way to kill a beast? Justified.
Alrighty. So here's the pockets. I'll put them over here. Now I have these two ties. I want to do them first. So we're going to put these over here to the side. If I can find a spot to put them. And we're going to work on the ties first. So that we'll have them done.
So I don't know what you think about that, David, but this is a mentality of a lot of people. Obviously, there's some people that say, oh, this has nothing to do with it. But the fact is that every time that they've attempted something similar, there has been outcry and bombings and weird stuff that goes down around those times.
Well, the Temple Mount Faithful, who was headed up by Gershom Solomon, he's now passed away, they believed that this sacrifice must take place for the third temple to be built and also for the Jewish Messiah to come, who will he will basically usher in a worldwide Jewish...
Alrighty, I want to go 3 inches down, and I'm going to turn this down and this down, and do it 3 inches. So right about right here. Alrighty, on these right here, this is the front of it. I want to, let's see, I gotta have the other side. I want, there we go. Sew down. Yeah, I'm trying to think of how I want to do it. Alright. From here down, I want to sew it. And I'll make sure I got 3 here. Let's get right here, okay? We'll go right here. And I'll put a pin. And I'm going to sew this down.
Government, basically a Jewish New World Order, which is basically that which we see in the Talmud. Now, interestingly enough, the dispensationalists and many in the Hebrew root movement, they have followed suit. And they believe that until this red heifer is sacrificed, that Jesus can't return. Now, the problem is here, Alfred Edersheim, who wrote The Life and Times of Jesus the Messiah, he was a Jewish man that converted to Christ.
All right. I want to take and halfway down this way and iron it. Now, on this side, I want to sew from here down to here so that it will go on the front like I did Rick's pants.
And he said that the Messiah that the Jews are looking for, now we have to remind people, this gets blurred, but Judaism officially rejects Christ as Messiah. That's what they're all about. So Mr. Edersheim says that the Messiah they're looking for is the Antichrist. So we have one group of extremely Orthodox Jews. They want to do the sacrifice to bring in their Messiah, who's really the beast. Now here we have Christians that they're professing to be Christians. They say some people are even donating money to make this sacrifice happen, and they say it's got to happen for Jesus to return. Now, already we're starting to go to crazy time here already.
You know, it's interesting to me because in my mind, I think, like, without thinking about the Muslims, without thinking about the Christians, without thinking about anybody, in my mind, if it was just as simple as like, oh, the Jews decided they're going to do a red heifer sacrifice, to me, no big deal. Fine, do it. You know, who am I to say don't do that? You know, like, obviously, I'm not God. I can't tell them to stop doing it. But when I look at it from just the perspective of not knowing anything.
So, now, what I want to do from here is I want to take one of these and we're going to sew it down all the way on all sides so that we could put the thingamadoodler in here, the tie string. I think she'll like it because it don't matter what her size is, it'll still work.
I can see, like, why not? Like, why not let them do it? You know, just go on with the sacrifice. And still at this point where I'm at right now, I don't believe there's anything I could do to stop it to begin with, nor should I. You know, it's one of those things that's going to take place eventually, whether we want it to or not. You know, it's one of those things.
And they're also very dogmatic that it has to happen right there where the Dome of the Rock is.
Yes.
They're very dogmatic about that. Can't be 50 feet this way, that way. Got to be right there.
Well, they have. You'll hear a little bit more about it, but it's interesting because they have the place that they've done it historically. Because in the Bible, as you can see, it says they have to do it outside of the gates of the temple with the sacrifice. So that sacrifice has to take place biblically according to that right there where they have it, which is overlooking the dome on the other end of the wall. And so the sacrifice, what the thing that really, and we're going to actually, I will talk about, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves on this because this is, you guys need to see this. Now, this guy that we're getting ready to hear is Adam Berkowitz, and he is an authority on this. He's there in Israel. He knows all the right people. He's been on all the programs and everything. Well, he did a program with Rico Cortez, and I watched several interviews with this guy, but I believed on this interview he was a little more lax, and he gave out some interesting information that I think people should be aware of. One of the things that I think that is the most profound, which I think all of us need to understand, that if this is going to happen, the only heifers that they have available are of age, and next year they will not be anymore. Next year they will be no longer able to be sacrificed. So in order for this red heifer sacrifice to happen, these pure red heifers that they have, it has to happen this year. Okay, or it just doesn't happen again until they find some more red heifers, because they've
Now
raised
we
these
have
up. They spent
this right here that we want to turn down. Now, this is the back and this is the front. Now I want to try to do the pocket the same identical way, so that we'll have the pocket that way. So I'm going to turn it down just a little bit. Better go over. Go over. And then we're going to turn it down. Till we get to right there. Alright, now we'll go down through here and we're going to turn it down.
Million, I believe it was $500,000 actually to ship them over there, to get them over there properly, and they've raised them there. Looking at it with magnifying glasses, you're talking about like fine tooth combing it, you know, like but this, there have had others before, but they don't generally get to 3 years without a blemish at some point, and these have made it. So this is how imminent this time is for them to do it. No matter how much they want to downplay it, of course they're going to downplay it, because if they tell people, hey, we're going to do it today, there would be bombs, right? There would be crazy fanatics. Everything would be going on however it was. And when people, last week, everybody's like, no, do it now because they're going to do it on Passover. I remember saying they're not. I don't think they're going to do it on Passover. I just don't think it's going to happen. They don't do, like, he'll explain why in this video. So I'm just going to go ahead and play it. I don't want to reveal too much here. I want to let him, somebody that actually is over there a lot, kind of knows what's going on over there. And I'm not one of those people. I'm not over there ever, so I couldn't tell you everything. But this guy knows more than he lets on.
Yes, News. They did an article documentary. First of all, the guy who wrote the article has a long history of writing articles that are anti-Israel.
Yeah.
So when they did this thing on the red heifer, I did an article. I went through it step by step to say what they even wrote that the red heifer was written about in the book of Numbers in response to Rome destroying the temple.
Now I have two of these. Yeah, two of them. I'm going to take one side, I'm going to fold it down, and I'm going to sew it down.
What?
You heard me right. You heard me right. They changed that because I pointed it out, and I'm like, what are you going to say? That God wrote the Torah, or because of in response to the Romans? It was insane.
That's crazy.
They took that out, and then I mean they did say, oh, it's done on the Mount of Olives, and then they show this altar, this white altar. What that is, it's a near full-size model,
Right.
of the altar that stood in the temple. That model,
We're going to take this one and we're going to feed it through from right here and make sure that's where I put where I had sewed it.
stands in a town called Mitzpah Yericho. It does not stand on the Mount of Olives. It does not stand in Jerusalem. It's in Mitzpah Yericho. It's only used for educational purposes. And they themselves said the red heifer is built on the Mount of Olives. So, and then they show the red heifer is done on the Mount of Olives. And then they show an altar that stands in Mitzpah Yericho. And also, the red heifer is not burned on an altar.
I know, it's on a pit.
It's
It takes about
burned on a
1
pyre. So what are they showing this altar for? They want to say, oh, they built an altar for it already. Hey, no. So why are you saying it? You're saying
Okay,
it
so-
just to get people riled up.
The heifers, there's 2 left. There's not going to be, as far as we know, you can corroborate this with me, that there's not going to be a red heifer slaughter before the Passover. It will be impossible.
Oh, no, before Passover?
Yeah, there's no way. It's on Monday.
No, it's not going to happen before
week Monday.
Passover. I don't think it'll happen soon, but it might. All the boxes got to have the checks. Everything has got to be in place perfectly. You know, once every 1,000 years, you don't get a second shot. You know,
Yeah.
and it's a very rare animal, so it's got to be perfect. The heifer the Kohen, the pathway up to the place. Everything has to be perfect.
Oh, the pathway. We just found, archaeologists found the city, the road from the city of Shiloh all the way up to the...
and we knew that it was there.
I know.
It's not like, and it's been there for 2,000 years.
So there's a lot of things really taking place that we've never seen before.
That's also true.
Since the first century. It's very exciting.
Very exciting. So and not only in connection with the red heifer and so many other things, it's just... We have one shot every couple thousand years. We're going to do it perfectly right. There's no rush. There's no rush to do it wrong.
So as you can see there, he was just kind of talking about the qualifications, and as the podcast go on, they talked about all of the different things that kind of came into place to make it the perfect year to actually do it. And give me 1 second here. I'm going to switch this. They even have this Cohen that they brought up that is, and this is, they don't have his name on here. They haven't given his name, but the Temple Institute notes that the young man who remains unnamed in the post, possibly for security reasons, has met the highest level of requirements for purity according to Torah. He was born at home according to the Temple Institute and has never been inside of a hospital, having never contracted met impurity, and he's never had contact with a corpse. So this kid meets the qualifications, supposedly a line of Cohens, and he is pure to be able to do this sacrifice. So they've got the steps in place. They got everything lined up. So the idea that they don't have it ready, that it's not ready to do, that's out of the picture. It's obviously ready, and they want it to happen. So it's only a matter of, to me, it's a matter of, do they have the guts to do it or not? And I think they do. What do you think, David?
We have them done, and I'm hoping that they fit her. She's got some front pockets, and it don't matter what size she is, it will fit her. All the way down to nothing. Yeah. I think that it works pretty good. Now, make sure you backstitch twice here and down here at the end of the legs. I think that they turned out pretty cool. Let me turn you around here just a little bit more. I'm not going to try them on, but there they are. Alright, we'll see you later.
CBS News, they did an article documentary. First of all, the guy who wrote the article has a long history of writing articles that are anti-Israel.
Yeah.
So when they did this thing on the red heifer, I did an article. I went through it step by step to say what they even wrote that the red heifer was written about in the Book of Numbers in response to Rome destroying the temple.
What?
You heard me right. You heard me right. They changed that because I pointed it out, and I'm like, what are you going to say? That God wrote the Torah, or because of in response to the Romans? It was insane.
That's crazy.
They took that out, and then I mean they did say, oh, it's done on the Mount of Olives, and then they show this altar, this white altar. What that is, it's a near full-size model
right
of the altar that stood in the temple. That model stands in a town called Mitzpah Yericho. It does not stand on the Mount of Olives. It does not stand in Jerusalem. It's in Mitzpah Yericho. It's only used for educational purposes. And they themselves said the red heifer is built on the Mount of Olives. So, and then they show red heifer is done on the Mount of Olives. And then they show an altar that stands in Mitzpah Yericho. And also, the red heifer is not burned on an altar.
I know, it's on a pit.
It's
it takes about
burned on a pyre. So what are they showing this altar for? They want to say, oh, they built an altar for it already. No. So why are you saying it? You're saying it just to get people riled up.
The heifers, there's 2 left. There's not going to be, as far as we know, you can corroborate this with me, that there's not going to be a red heifer slaughter before the Passover. It will be impossible.
Oh, no, before Passover?
Yeah, there's no way. It's on Monday.
No. It's not going to happen before
Monday.
Passover. I don't think it'll happen soon, but it might. All the boxes got to have the checks. Everything has got to be in place perfectly. Once every 1,000 years, you don't get a second shot. And it's a very rare animal, so it's got to be perfect. The heifer, the Kohen, the pathway up to the place, everything has to be perfect.
Oh, the pathway! We just found, archaeologists found the city. I mean, the road from the city of Shiloach all the way up to the.
And we knew that it was there.
I know.
It's not like and it's been there for 2,000 years.
So there's a lot of things really taking place that we never seen before.
That's also true.
Since the first century, it's very exciting.
Very exciting. So and not only in connection with the red heifer, and so many other things. It's just we have one shot every couple 1,000 years. We're going to do it perfectly right. There's no rush. There's no rush to do it wrong.
So as you can see there, he was just kind of talking about the qualifications, and as the podcast go on, they talked about all of the different things that kind of came into place to make it the perfect year to actually do it. And give me one second here. I'm going to switch this. They even have this Cohen that they brought up that is, and this is, they don't have his name on here. They haven't given his name. But the Temple Institute notes that the young man, who remains unnamed in the post, possibly for security reasons, has met the highest level of requirements for purity according to Torah. He was born at home, according to the Temple Institute, and has never been inside of a hospital, having never contracted met impurity, and he's never had contact with a corpse. So this kid meets the qualifications, supposedly a line of Cohen's, and he is pure to be able to do this sacrifice. So they've got the steps in place, they got everything lined up. So the idea that they don't have it ready, that it's not ready to do, that's out of the picture. It's obviously ready, and they want it to happen. So it's only a matter of, to me, it's a matter of, do they have the guts to do it or not? And I think they do. What do you think, David?
Well, absolutely. These people are terribly, terribly serious, and they absolutely. I think I misspoke. The sacrifice doesn't have to be done on the mount, but they believe right there that's where the temple's got to be.
Yeah, Mount of Olives, right there.
That's where that temple has to be. Absolutely.
Yeah, the temple has to be there, and they want to get rid of the temple. I don't. There's certain fanatics that are hardcore about this. This is most people don't realize this, but for a long time right now, there is a strong presence at the temple with the Israeli military. They only allow certain ages to come in there at certain times. There are, in fact, violence things that happen, and at some of the mosques, the Jews have, killed multiple people in there and taken over that mosque in those areas. So there's a real threat there to those people. They know that when the Jews go to fight, they go to fight, and they know that there are people that are fanatical enough to go in there and murder every single one of them. And there's no doubt that these people are there. In fact, I've got a video that I'd like for you guys to just see that kind of just proves the point that I'm trying to make here.
Even after they occupied the site in 1967, Israeli authorities maintained a policy that Jews should not pray there and that only Muslims can. But that might be changing. And these people are driving that. They belong to various groups that make up what's generally referred to as the Temple Mount movement. Their ultimate goal is to demolish the mosque, this symbol of Palestinian nationhood, this sacred site to Muslims worldwide, and build a third Jewish temple there. And they're pretty open about their plans.
For 34 years, the Temple Institute has been preparing for the rebuilding of the Holy Temple and the renewal of the divine service.
They've even got detailed architectural renderings of what the temple would look like. They receive financial support from the Israeli government and charities in the US, Canada, and the UK. In recent years, they've even offered cash rewards to Jews who enter the Al-Aqsa compound or slaughter animals there, which was part of Jewish ritual at the original temple. For decades, these activists were dismissed by most Israelis and constrained by the government. But that was then.
So a few years ago, this was considered fringe?
Zealots, lunatics, peculiar. Today it's mainstream.
Yehuda Glick is one of the movement's most prominent figures, and he served in the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. He's not the only one to reach that office.
10 years ago, there was not a single member of Knesset who attended Temple Mount. Today, we have 20 of the Knesset members.
It's become common for government ministers and leaders, and even the Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, to talk about imposing Jewish prayers at Al-Aqsa. Until the early 2000s, the number of Israeli Jews who entered the Al-Aqsa compound was very small, maybe a few dozen a year. But as the Temple Mount movement has moved into the mainstream, that number has recently grown to tens of thousands a year. With the Israeli government increasingly allowing the status quo at Al-Aqsa to change, the worry is that things are going in one direction, towards a situation where Palestinian access to it is restricted even more, the way it has been at another holy site in the wake of a bloody mass killing. Here's that story. 20 miles south of Jerusalem is the Israeli-occupied city of Hebron, where the prophet Abraham is believed to be buried with members of his family under this building. Abraham is a central figure for both Jews and Muslims. That's why Jews call this site the Cave of the Patriarchs, and Muslims refer to it as the Ibrahimi Mosque. After the occupation began in 1967, Hebron was the first place that Israelis settled in violation of international law. Jews and Muslims both prayed at the site, but the situation was volatile. On the morning of February 25th, 1994, hundreds of Palestinian Muslims were praying at the Ibrahimi Mosque. An American-born Israeli settler, a reservist in the Israeli army carrying an automatic rifle, entered the mosque, waited for worshippers to kneel down in prayer, and then started shooting. Baruch Goldstein killed 29 people and injured more than 120. One witness described how there were bodies and blood everywhere. Goldstein's massacre ended when the survivors hit him with a fire extinguisher and beat him to death. The injured were rushed to hospitals, which were overwhelmed. And as news of the killing spread, protests broke out across Hebron. Israeli soldiers opened fire, killing more than 20 additional Palestinians in the following days. While we were researching this story, we came across a letter published in the New York Times in 1981. The author notes the difference between Palestinian and Israeli birth rates. The solution, he writes, is for Israel to, quote,
So we'll stop it there, but the point that I wanted you to see in this video is that there's a lot more volatile situations going on in that area than what people may think. And of course, obviously in the news now, there's so much going on already to think that there's actually more going on deep within the belly of this, this center is mind-blowing, because obviously we have the Palestinian thing going on. Now we have with Iran going on. We have basically Israel is being tortured on all sides, and maybe they're part of the torture that they're doing on all sides, but it's just a hodgepodge of just fumes getting ready to just blow. That's what I see anyway. And of course, I'm nobody. I'm not there, but this is the plan, right? Albert Pike's 3 World Wars. This is the plan, this 3 World War, the Zionists versus the Muslims. And how can they kick it off in a better way, David? I don't know.
Well, and I think what we need to keep in mind is that there are people that want to instigate World War III. They want to see the Dome of the Mosque destroyed because, in their belief, their Messiah can't come until the temple is built there. So, I mean, these people are open about it. They want World War III.
Yeah.
And when we think about who else was talking about World War III being propagated with the conflict between the Zionists and the Muslims, this is the Illuminati agenda.
Yeah. And it becomes more and more clear as you see a lot of people, like you were saying earlier, Dave, of a lot of the Christians, a lot of the Zionists in general, because you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. There's a lot of Zionists that aren't Jews. They're totally for the Zionist state that are actually donated to this thing. And maybe they don't understand what they're propagating, but what they're actually propagating is a mass casualty scenario. And in my opinion, I don't think it's going to go unnoticed. I don't think it's going to go without some kind of repercussion, because there's people that are already empowered to go on to the Temple Mount. And this article here, I found this article, you can look up this article in 2024, this was just a few days ago, 13 people detained near Jerusalem's Temple Mount with lambs and goats they intended to sacrifice in a biblical Passover ritual. And so they already have people in the video we showed before. You heard the lady saying that they're actually paying people to try to get in there and make it happen. So the thing is that a lot of people won't enter there. They believe that it's very scary for them to enter into these situations, or into the holy ground, right? They believe that it's holy ground and they haven't been consecrated. They haven't received the ashes from the red heifer in order to enter the Temple Mount. And I think the fear is that once they feel empowered, once they feel to where they are now clean to enter into the Temple Mount, they actually will. And when they do, they've never all entered there. Like most of the people that are religious fanatics, etc., they haven't entered it because they believe that it's holy ground. They cannot enter without being pure. And so this is a very real fear that the people of Jordan, who Transjordan, and the people of Palestine, the people of all different places fear, because Palestine's been at odds with the Jews right there in that temple many times. They've had battles in there.
Oh, yeah. I might just